Hey, this is Oakshire, aka Dorban, one of the content developers at EQ2EMU, or Everquest 2 Emulator. We've had a lot of requests about, give me a guide that I really want to be able to make a quest or work with NPCs or just a how-to. And we have very few, and I figured I'd put something together for quest building and dialogue building. So this is part 1 of 2, particularly focused on quest building. And if you're looking for examining the beauty of the game or the actual content and playing of the game, this video is strictly just the back end. You are not going to see much playing. It's simply a how-to. So, like I said, this is part 1. Just to kind of go over briefly what we're going to talk about, I'm going to explain the tools. We're going to actually create a quest itself and look at all of the scripting and research that goes involved just to recreate something. Ideally, you'll be able to use this kind of information so you can either recreate your own quests from other historical information or whatever you're pulling it from, or you can use these same rules to create your own quests if you decide to have a server of your own using the same kind of sandbox. So, tools. Main thing I'm going to be using is our database editor, which is a web-based browser. You'll be seeing a lot of that as we go through. This is what we end up building most of our content on. A quest parser is a tool that we use to help pull quest information off EQ2 Census. EQ2 Prima Guide, that is the first game guide for the game that was released in 2004. It is the holy grail of content information that was released just before the release of the game. And then I also use Wayback Machine for historical references, which I have asterisks here for 2 websites that I'll be referencing in this video, and Notepad++, which is a great tool for me to be able to search and highlight particular lines of text that pertain to possibly dialogue or other quest information. So I left this up here for you, so if you want to look at this list later, if you want to reference anything, you certainly can. But let's just jump into it. I want to kind of give you an idea of what is it we're going to talk about. So we're going to make a quest, and we're going to start here in the Freeport district of Temple Street. I picked Temple Street because in at least the date of this recording, we don't have a lot of content developed here. It is technically a blank slate. So you'll see a lot of NPCs, but they're not scripted to do anything. One thing about history-wise for Everquest 2, there's been a lot of iterations, and we are using the Desert of Flames client here. Now, we have 2 main clients that we tend to use, Desert of Flames and Altar of Malice. So you'll see DOF or AOM thrown about if you're ever on our Discord channels. DOF tends to have the oldest renditions of zones, particularly for Freeport, who has gone through at least 2 or 3 different iterations. So this is going to be the oldest representation we have, closest to classic, of this particular zone. All the art is going to look just like it did when it was released. So I picked this zone. Let's go find an NPC. What I'm going to do is we're going to wander over here, and we're looking for an NPC called Sparzit. I've already got him targeted. You'll see he's here at the tavern. So this city is, or this district anyway, is for gnomes and Ratonga, for the citizens of Freeport. And there's a lot of zany things going on here. Sparzit here, he has some voices talking to him. Well, if I hail him right now, he doesn't do anything. So it just means he's not scripted. He also doesn't have a quest feather above his head. He's not offering anything. We need to create something. So here we go. We're going to get started. This here is a picture from the Prima Guide. It's going to be a great reference if you're looking for something historical. Like I mentioned, it is the holy grail of classic information. The quest we're looking to recreate is Teeth for Sparzit. So I'm going to just highlight the name and copy it for now. I'm going to take us to the database editor. This is our web-based browser where we use whatever tools we need in order to recreate any content we possibly can. So spawns, spells, items, quests, that kind of thing. So this video is strictly focused on quests, so we're going to go to quests. We'll go to the particular zone that we want to make a quest in, Temple Street, and we're going to add a quest. You'll see there's not many quests here, so this is us starting a new quest. So we have the name of the quest, the type of a quest. This is going to be, if it's like a heritage quest, you'd put this here. If it was a Hallmark quest, you put it there. But because it's just a basic Temple Street quest, we're just going to put that there. Next, we need to know what level this quest should be. Now, this will change depending historically on what zone you're looking at. So if the zone has been changed a lot or there have been a lot of content revamps, you'll find this is different depending where you look. We tend to look at the oldest possible locations when we're recreating a classic quest. So I'm going to show you these resources that I pull up. This particular one is EQ2, or EQ2U rather. I pulled up the information for the quest. You'll see it even says it was removed a long time ago. It provides some basic information, but it's missing some. But what it does give me is the reward experience. Another one is EQ2EMU, now known as Fanbyte. I really like this website because it has some great commentary, as well as it's the best breakdown of the census data visually of what's available. So, for instance, like what you get when you take the quest, this will be at the top of your quest journal. And then each task is going to be broken down that's available, and then finally the final quest completed text is going to be here too. And then our Wayback Machine, this is a great way to look at historical reference. Like for instance, I'm looking February 21st of 2005 at Alakazam. This is what Zam became, or it became from, and then eventually obviously transferred to Fanbyte. But here I can see, for instance, our minimum level for this quest, and the quest level itself is 6. Gives me a nice little idea of, okay, someone typed in what the reward was back then. And another website we go to a lot is EQ2O Gaming. It's a great place for item information, some historical reference that doesn't exist really anywhere else. You'll also see our quest rewards are here too, but main thing I want to do is get the quest level. So we know historically it was level 6. Okay, quest description, quest completed text. Well, I already showed you EQ2EMU, or Fanbyte is a really good place for that. So I'm just going to copy in there and paste it here. And then the completed text I could pull from there too, but I want to show you our parsing tool. So our quest parser is a tool for EQ2 content, EQ2EMU content development, and it will query the census just like our Fanbyte EQ2EMU actually pulled from, but it's going to help create an actual quest file for me. So I hit search, it actually found it. You have to actually have the name of the exact quest in there, the same as what's in their database, otherwise you won't be able to find it. This tells me it found it, and it tells me the first step, I must kill some snakes in the sprawl. Well, I can decide how this particular quest is addressed. I know it's going to be kill, but let's say I needed to go to a location, I'd hit location if I need to harvest something, or if I wanted to set up some generic way of updating a quest that I would then script externally to make something happen without the player possibly knowing. That would be a way I could do it here. But I know it's kill. Boom. Okay. So this is saying, would you like to open the file you just created? Well, yes, I do. But one thing I did notice, this quest should have another step. So what it should have done is, so if I go back to the primer guide, this tells me I had to get the quest, I had to kill the snakes, and then I had to return. Well, the parser did not tell me to return. So I'll have to recreate that by hand. What we're going to do then, we'll worry about that in a little bit, but with our quests that we just parsed, if we're looking for a completed text, it will be in the parsed quest. So it'll be down here at the updated quest description on the very last step. This is what the completed quest log will say. Sparzit was rather happy with the fangs I brought him. So we can double check that if we care. Over here on Fanbyte, Sparzit was rather happy with the fangs I brought him. So just showing you they're in 2 different locations depending on how you want to go about it. So I'm just going to paste that there. Make sure you get all of it because obviously I forgot the S. And then finally over here to create the quest, we've got the spawn ID. So this is associated with the particular NPC who is offering the quest. This allows us to see from afar, okay, who is this quest supposed to be associated with? So it's only going to be with one NPC. It's only going to be with this guy. So I need to figure out what is a spawn ID. There's two different ways to do this, either through the database editor or you could do it in game. So first I'm going to show this to you. We're going to find Sparzit. So I can either start typing him in, he'll come up if he's the only one available. The other way to do this is I can go to Temple Street, under search, Temple Street. So he's an NPC, but every single entity within the game is technically a spawn. So it's either like an NPC, an object, a sign, that kind of thing. We'll go into more of this information when we get to our text creation, but right now we're just focused on the quest. It's all we care about. So I'm going to come to Sparzit. There he is. Okay, so this is his profile. This right here is his spawn ID. It's also here, but it's also at the top. So this is the number I want to place here. Okay, that means this quest is going to be associated with that NPC. And there it is. Excellent. I mentioned there were two ways to find your spawn ID earlier when we were looking at that. So I had you go through the database editor, we looked at the spawn, we found Sparzit. Well, this one, what you can do in game, I'm going to make this bigger, is spawn details, if you have access to this. Now, through the Desert of Flames client, the text is a little bit off because we normally use Altar of Malice for this kind of thing, but it does give all the same information. The ID is available here, amongst everything else. So I would then manually type that into where I needed it. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do is, we've got the quest template laid out. We need to figure out, okay, what are the rewards and are there any prerequisites? Well, this is a very basic quest. It doesn't really have much in terms of prerequisite, but it does have a reward. So first, let's just give it the experience it needs. Like I mentioned earlier, EQ2U is a really good location to find experience values. 125 is what it stated, so we're just going to go ahead, insert that there. Next, I saw it had an item. Actually, it had two. So from there, we're going to make it a selectable. Rewards selectable, we need to give it the item value. First, let's figure out what the items were. One of our old references here mentions two here. So the Asp Fang earring. We're going to see if we can find the Asp Fang earring. I can't just put this here. That's not going to work. I need an actual ID for it. So I'm going to come to items. I'm going to put an Asp Fang earring and see if anything comes up. And it did. Okay. This is the Asp Fang earring. Just for reference, this is obviously where you can put a lot of basic information about this particular item. We need to go back and allow other archetypes to be able to use this. But for now, we're just looking at building the quest. So I'm going to take the ID, I'm going to put it in the quest, and I need to make sure the quantity is at least 1. Otherwise, you'll be giving a quantity of 0 of that item. Okay, now there's also another selectable. So the next selectable, as we saw here, a perfect Asp Fang, which is a dagger. Let's see if we can find that item here. Uh-oh, means no matches. So what I'm going to do is, at some point, the perfect Snake Fang became something to replace the perfect Asp Fang. For right now, I'm just going to put this into the quest as a demonstration, but we would go back and actually recreate that item. And then finally, we need to consider the prereqs for this quest. Now, mind you, this is a very basic quest, so it won't really have prerequisites, but just for option's sake, we can say all these different categories for a prereq. For instance, we can say they require a certain faction, they have to be a certain race, or even they have to have completed a certain quest. So if I were to put quest, for example, we'd put quest, and then I have to put the value is the quest ID. And the quest ID can be seen up on top, or it can be in the registered quest section, if that's what you end up wanting to do. Now, for this one though, I'm going to put faction, and we're going to make sure that whoever accepts it has a positive Freeport faction. So I know, for instance, Freeport's city of Freeport is faction number 12, and I've given it a value of 1, meaning they have to have a positive Freeport faction in order to even see this quest. The big thing with prerequisites is, in order to see the quest feather above the NPC's head, they have to meet all the prerequisites. So if for if they don't have the right race, for instance, they will not see the quest feather. And ideally, the quest will be, the NPC's dialogue will be scripted in a way that they no longer offer that quest either. This can be bypassed by the NPC's dialogue. The NPC can give the quest even though it doesn't seem to offer the quest visibly, like it doesn't have the quest feather. And then the nitty-gritty here is the script. So this is where everything happens. The quest itself, this quest, we could make this and have it apply to 100 NPCs, or we could have it make just apply to our one, whatever we want to do. But for our intent, we are going to go through each of these and create the quest using the script we pulled. So to give you an idea what's happening here, the function, the first thing, the initial function is going to create our first step. Our accepted function is going to be looking at, okay, when the player accepts the quest, what happens? Does the NPC say something? Do you get booted from the zone? What happens? And same with decline. Same things can kind of happen from accepted to decline. The completed quest, so that's the very final step. What happens? Does the player get the reward? And then finally reload. Reloading is going to be, okay, let's say you've got a quest and you're on step 2. Well, when you zone, it's going to ask, the game is going to ask, okay, where is this quest supposed to display? Well, it will check and see what step you're on and say, okay, you need to see this particular step of the quest. Great. Okay, so we did pull from the census already this particular script. I'm going to just copy and paste it just so you get kind of an idea. Okay, so this was what we pulled from the census. To kind of give you a breakdown, I told it that I wanted to add a step to kill something, so that is what the first step is. So we got add quest step kill. So it then goes into all these different parameters. The first one is, okay, what is actually displaying, what is this pertaining to? It's pertaining to the quest. This is the quest. And this is step 1. The next thing is, I must kill some snakes in the sprawl. Okay, so that's going to be the description step. And then the next bit of text here is going to be the task. So the way this works is, a good demonstration of that is going to be on XAM. So for instance, stage 1, this is the task, and then everything within the task is our steps. So there can be multiple steps within the task. Fortunately for this, there's only the one. I must kill snakes in the sprawl, and then when you finally reach that, I found some fangs. So you'll see, I need to kill some steps, or I need to kill some snakes in the sprawl, and the final thing here is, I found some fangs. So the way this works, here's your descriptor. You need one fang, one update of that fang, and how likely when you kill that thing are you going to get it? It's at 100%, but historically it was really annoying to get. So I made it so it's at 33%. So roughly, well, you'll have to kill a few snakes in order to get the update. So here's the task, text, and finally here, this is the descriptor icon of the quest in your journal. And that is displayed on EQ2U usually. And if you ever need to recreate something and you're like, okay, what was that icon? I need to figure it out. Well, what I tend to do is I'll right click on the icon, go to inspect, and this great bit of information comes up. What you'll see here is it'll highlight the actual image data, and right here towards the end, right before item is a number, and 102 is the item number for this fang picture. And that applies to our quest script. And then finally here is the ID. So this will be the ID of the snakes I need to kill. So I need to figure out the snakes in the sprawl. Well, I know that this is going to be an asp. So I'm going to go to the sprawl here in our database for spawns. Go to NPCs, and it is, let's see, a shore-side asp. This is going to be the snake we have to kill. Here is the ID that I need to pull, just like I did for the gnome earlier. I'm going to put it here. And boom. Okay, that one's done. If you noticed, before I put that in, there's this little red X here. It gives you an indication that there's probably an error, and it even gives you a little idea. There needs to be something here. Well, there it is. There's your ID. And technically, this is enough to make a script. I could make it so the moment you find your update, it would give you the quest reward. So it would saying, at quest step action on completion. So once you get this, it goes into this section. So quest step 1, you're going to function quest complete. It comes down here. It's going to look at, okay, applying from the quest giver and the player. It's saying, hey, we're updating the quest. I found some fangs. This is going to be generally what is flashed on the player's screen once they receive the update. The task is what's going to be in the journal. It's going to say, okay, this task has been completed, on to the next task if there is another one. And then finally, this is going to be the display icon for the, or the display text on the quest completed description. And then obviously you want to give the player the reward. Now, like I said earlier, this needs to be updated, so it adds another step. But just to give you the basics, this is what's going to be created. Now, before the quest is even created, you actually have to create the quest. Boom. There. It's in. So, this quest is now technically available. I have to reload the quest in the game, but, and once that's reloaded either through a reset, and the quest dialogue has actually been given to the NPC, it should be available. So, to kind of just flesh it all out into a completed quest that's already been scripted so you can see it in action, let's head to the Baubleshire. And from there, let's go to one of the many quests we have completed. We're going to go to Fight to the Forgotten Guardians. So, as you can see, quest description, completed text, it's all here. Details, we've got our prerequisites in place, rewards, and then the quest script itself. So for instance, when you receive the quest, your goal is to kill 5 at 100% chance per update of these Forgotten Guardians in the forest ruins. Here are the IDs for all of these different Forgotten Guardians that count as potential credit. Once you complete this particular step, you go to the next action. But one thing you should note here that I didn't mention before is you can update the quest zone in your quest journal. So the quest zone will head you to the forest ruins. When you accept the quest, you're going to see this conversation. The player is going to see the NPC say, good, return when you've bested them. And then the player can respond, I'll return victorious. Nothing happens when you decline the quest. Step 2, obviously same thing. So step 1 is complete, task 1 is complete, and then here's step 2 of the quest. And it's all happening within the Baubleshire. So once you complete that, it comes down here and completes the quest. So just to see it in action, let's find Marshal Surefoot. Here he is.
Forgotten Guardians are no match for a Leatherfoot. Ha! Stand stout. You'd make a fine deputy.
I'm going to fly through this dialogue for we can show about it more later.
Aha! Then stand firm.
Here is the quest window showing the initial description of the quest. When you hit accept, you will have his little response. I'll return victorious. And the quest shows up in your journal. Here is the description. Here is the current zone. Here is the task. And here is the step. All above the reward. Well, there it is, everyone. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in knowing how to build the dialogues of these NPCs and the current system that we're using, please watch part 2. Otherwise, just thank you for watching and thank you for your interest.